I think getting the entire team together for chapter retreats is extremely vital to your success for that up and coming year. The most important part that you can pull out of all of that is that if your advising team isn't going to be present for when you're doing your planning or structuring your goals, there's probably going to be a good chance that they're not going to be involved, or when you pick up the phone and call them in December, they're not going to respond the way that you hope that they do. You want to give every volunteer, as soon as they show up, an assignment. What are they going to own? What part are they going to play within the chapter?
You have to make them feel like they're an important part of the organization. And I think that having every alumni advisor participating and having an assigned responsibility is very key to them feeling important and for them to keep coming back. In my opinion, one of the best things a new chapter advisor can do is to initiate a fall retreat and a mid-semester retreat. Get the exec officers away from the chapter house, go to a lake, go to a park, go to an office boardroom, anywhere that's not in the house and preferably off campus, so that the guys can relax and talk. We always do an 8-hour retreat. This year we're going to do an overnight retreat for the first time, and we think that will give the officers more time to bond and really cross-pollinate their ideas so that each officer is working together for the common good. Great retreats, though, don't come easy. They have to be very carefully planned. I prefer to let the president do that planning and communicating so that he establishes his leadership role for the upcoming semester. So what I do is I meet with the president and we talk about what's on your agenda, what do you want to cover, what are your goals. To be a part of the program, I always make sure that the advising team that's present have a speaking part. And I'll stand up and talk for 30 minutes about SMART goals and goal setting. And then the president will come in right behind that and say, okay guys, you've heard what SMART goals are. I'd like to get your written goals in the next 7 days.
I think setting goals is so important within doing the retreat. But you also have to play devil's advocate. As you set those SMART goals, you have to ask the questions, what happens if this fails? What happens if you don't complete the steps all the way to obtain this goal? What are you going to do when you fail? And when you make them think and walk through, okay, these are the proper steps that we're going to need to take, this is how we're going to measure it. And when you put those timelines into those goals of saying we're going to be this far by this date, or we're going to have this segment accomplished by that date, what you're doing is you're setting them up to think through the entire year successfully. They build that visualization, they can see it. And when they can see it and they can truly see what they want to accomplish as an exec team and as a chapter, you end up with everyone on the same page. And I think it's very important to post those goals or get those goals out to all of the members so that everyone's on the same page.
I love that. The other thing we do in this retreat is I'll ask a couple of questions. And one is, what is the brand that you want your chapter to be known for this semester? Brett, the last thing I like to do at the fall retreat or the mid-semester retreat is to go through our transition binder. And one of the things I learned from my current chapter is that they record everything that they do. How much money they spent at a social, who the vendor was, how many people showed up, was it a great success or a terrible failure. And we go through and review all of our parties and our events from the last semester so that we know where we've been and we try to avoid those problems going forward in the next semester. So I really admire the way that my chapter uses transition binders. And it could be a 3-page memo from the outgoing officer to the new one, or it could be a full 3-ring tabbed binder. But I would encourage every chapter to have some sort of transition document so that if you don't come back from Christmas because you're studying abroad or you got hit by a car, somebody can pick up that transition binder and know exactly what needs to be done. Well, the key for me, and I think one of the things that makes my chapter successful, is that they have to make the decisions. I don't think it's appropriate for the alumni to come in and tell the undergraduates how to do their next function, their next party, or any of their programming. I do think it's important to ask good questions that helps them avoid pitfalls, helps them stay out of trouble. The only time that as an advisor I will step in is when I see them in imminent danger or breaking the law.
That's right. That's right. And as far as communication goes, communication is so different today than it used to be. One of the things that I've seen is that when it comes to communication, how a chapter communicates is done nowadays through Facebook and through texting. There's a statistic out there that the average college student is checking their Facebook 6 to 7 times per day. And I've had stories to where the chapter advisor has made phone calls and not gotten calls back, sent emails, not gotten emails back, but sends a text and gets a call back within 1 minute. So communication is more different than it's ever been before. And I think one of the most grasping questions that you can ask is, how do you want me to communicate with you? How do we talk back and forth so I know that I'm going to get a call back and you're going to get a call back and that we stay on the same page? I always like to talk about too the failure part. Not every chapter is going to succeed and not make a mistake. And in fact, I don't think there's a lot of value in learning if you're not going to be making mistakes. If you're not going to be pressing the limits on what do you want to accomplish, and you're not setting those goals that press you, there isn't going to be any failure. But there's not going to be any challenge and there's not going to be any growth. And so failure is going to happen within your chapter or colony. And I think you need to be prepared for that. And you need to qualify those questions with that exec team and with that chapter up front. How do you want me to handle you? Or how do you want me to communicate with you? Or how do you want me to address you if you're failing or if you're getting off track? And if you do it again, what's my ultimate to get you back on track? How do I do that best?
Really and truly, coming to college is the first time that guys have had to be independently responsible and accountable, and maybe the first time they've ever been allowed to fail. And I think as advisors, it's so easy to step in and say, you don't want to do that because I did it 20 years ago, or I did it 4 years ago, and here's how it turned out. Sometimes you just have to let the course happen, and you have to let it be a learning opportunity. Again, as long as no one's going to be in imminent danger, I usually will let it play through. But I do ask questions, and I do say, if this happens, how will you feel? If this were to happen, what would you want to do differently? And then I let the undergraduates, discuss it, debate it, and fight it, and come to their own decisions.
So do you try to play as a mirror, Randy? I mean, let's say they come to you with a pretty intimate question or a pretty solid question. Do you turn around and answer it for them, or do you reflect the question back on them and let them answer it?
I'm very Socratic. It really is, I think great advising is to keep the players on the field and explain what the rules are, explain what the consequences are, and then let them make the appropriate decisions.
Right.
And sometimes, my guys make a decision that I totally disagree with. And when I'm good, I bite my tongue. Sometimes I'm not so good. But we have great mutual trust. And what my exec team knows is we can talk about sex, drugs, rock and roll, campus administration, anything that's going on in the house. And I'm going to try to come to them and not be judgmental, but just say, what do I need to do to help you? And the biggest thing I reinforce, the undergraduate leadership with is, I'm here to help you make good decisions. I'm here to help you stay out of trouble, and I'm here to do what you need me to do to assist you in leading this chapter. I do not stand in front of the chapter. In fact, during a house meeting or a chapter meeting, I'm usually about halfway back because I don't want to upstage the leadership. I am an integral part of chapter meetings, but I don't go to pass the gavel because I think that they need to have that private time amongst the chapter members to speak freely and openly. And even though I'm there a lot, sometimes once and twice a week, they still need to have private time with just the chapter and understand my role there.